Hello, how are you? Many people complain that they have a lot of difficulty controlling their urge to eat sweets. They tell me, Patricia, I'm very focused. I really want to lose weight. I really want to improve my health, control my blood sugar. But there comes a time of day, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes at night, when I simply can't help but eat that sweet. It feels like I'm sabotaging myself. Is it a lack of willpower? That's not always the case. Often the gut can be related, and many people don't know the role the gut can play precisely in this control of the urge to eat sweets. Today, I'm going to tell you about 4 sabotage mechanisms that might be impacting you that are related to your gut and how you can solve this so you can manage that urge to eat sweets without suffering. Stay until the end because you won't want to miss it. And before we start, I want to ask you, do you feel this uncontrollable urge to eat sweets? What time does this urge happen? Write it for me down here in the comments. Many people still think of the gut as just a tube where we pass food through and absorb nutrients, right? As if it were just a big tube that digests, absorbs, and expels food waste. But nowadays, medicine has already recognized that the gut is actually a complex neuroendocrine organ. It produces more than 30 neurotransmitters, sends signals to the brain, houses 70% of our body's defense cells, and hosts what we call the gut microbiota, a living community of trillions of microorganisms that will dictate your metabolism, your mood, your cravings for food, and many other things. So let's talk a little bit more about this relationship between the gut and the brain and these 4 sabotage mechanisms that might be happening to you. Afterwards, let me know in the comments if you identified any of them, okay? There is like this 2-way communication superhighway that is the gut-brain axis. It operates through 4 main pathways, which is the vagus nerve, which is a physical extension. It's almost as if it were a fiber optic cable connecting these 2 organs. There are also intestinal hormones, bacterial metabolites, that is, the byproducts of the bacteria that inhabit our gut, and systemic inflammation, which is also related. So it is through these pathways that the gut manipulates our desires. So the first mechanism that might be happening is precisely dysbiosis and chemical hijacking. When we have an imbalance in the microbiota, where beneficial bacteria decrease and opportunistic bacteria increase, the bad ones, we enter a condition called dysbiosis. This scenario is fueled by the consumption of ultra-processed products, excessive use of antibiotics without medical indication, stress, lack of fiber in the diet, excessive sugar consumption. Certain bad bacteria and fungi feed exclusively on sugar to survive and multiply. So they love it when you consume a lot of sugar, sweets, white bread, white pasta, or any food that quickly turns into sugar in your body. And they manage to release metabolites into your bloodstream that travel to the brain and completely alter reward signals. So, in simple biological terms, the bacteria that love sugar sabotage your brain chemistry precisely to force you to eat the fuel that will keep them alive. So you're not choosing sweets simply out of weakness. The bad bacteria produce these compounds that send signals to your brain, forcing you to eat sugar and these other kinds of foods. The second mechanism may be related to a failure in satiety hormones, which are GLP-1, right? Much talked about with the weight loss pens, Ozempic, Wegovy, and peptide YY, which when your gut is healthy and receives good quality fiber, it stimulates the so-called L cells to produce 2 crucial satiety hormones, right? Which are GLP-1 and peptide YY. They travel to the hypothalamus in the brain and signal, food has arrived, you can turn off hunger. In an intestine with dysbiosis, inflamed, the production of GLP-1 and peptide YY really plummets. So without this natural break from these hormones, satiety tends to disappear, hunger can return in a few hours, and the brain seeks a faster source of energy. What does it want? Sugar. So the tendency is that you'll crave something sweet to get energy quickly, and it's a sign that this might be related. There is also another underlying mechanism that is directly related to insulin and glucose, this whole energy roller coaster. Because when we consume meals very rich in foods with a high glycemic index right early on, like white bread, saltine crackers, boxed juice, honey, jam, sugary cereal, not to mention donuts and waffles, which so many people routinely consume, right? Blood glucose rises very quickly, explosively even, and the pancreas gets a shock. It says, my God, what is this? So much glucose here. Then it sends a signal, right? The brain sends a signal to the pancreas saying, secrete insulin, throw the insulin in there, let's store this glucose, it's toxic to us in excess. So this exaggerated response will generate a sharp drop in blood sugar, right? A consequence. So it's what we call reactive hypoglycemia, it's a rebound effect. So often that uncontrollable urge to eat something sweet in the afternoon was programmed by an insulin spike you caused back at breakfast, because that ends up messing with your body's metabolism. So the ideal is that you avoid consuming foods rich in sugar in isolation. And if you are going to consume foods that have a higher glycemic index, combine them with other foods with a lower glycemic index, with fiber, with protein, with good fats to sustain, to hold back this carbohydrate, right, this sugar, and avoid this subsequent glucose crash, this hyper spike of insulin. If you're enjoying this video, look, give the video a like. It's very important to me here on the channel. And if you know someone who has a lot of difficulty controlling their craving for sweets, share this video. Let's help more people. The last mechanism is very interesting because it has to do with our dopamine and stress loop. We know that sugar activates the reward system in our brain, releasing dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter of immediate pleasure and relief. So when you are chronically stressed, tired, or sad, your brain creates a behavioral shortcut. It ends up understanding that that sweet is the fastest way to numb that pain or that emotional exhaustion. The problem is that the effect wears off very quickly, dopamine levels plummet, and then you'll need an even larger dose of sweets to feel the same relief as before. So it's worth trying to control anxiety, control your emotions, because everything is connected in our body. If you can have a moment of reflection, of self-care, and get that pleasure from something other than just food, you can also activate dopamine in other, more interesting ways. So what can we do to try and improve all of this, right? I've separated a few steps here that can help your gut and that can also help you control your craving for sweets more. First, try to improve your gut health by feeding it with its allies, which are basically prebiotics. Soluble fibers produce short-chain fatty acids, which are very good energy substrates for probiotics, which are the good bacteria themselves. Also, probiotics, which are fermented foods, right? They are live microorganisms. I have a playlist here of probiotics that you can make at home. Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, fermented cabbage, onions, oats, apples. There are a lot of fermented foods. I'll leave this playlist here for you, but remember to also consume good fibers to feed these beneficial bacteria and yeasts and make this system work better. Another interesting thing, if you have binge eating, is to try starting your day with high-quality protein. Eggs, whey protein, yogurt, cottage cheese are good sources of protein because by consuming this early on, you stabilize your glycemic curve, avoiding those insulin spikes and drops that I told you about, which can make you crave sweets more. Another thing is, if you are a person who has a habit of consuming a lot of sugar every day, the ideal is to gradually wean yourself off sugar. Cutting out sugar overnight will be complicated. It can cause physical withdrawal symptoms in some people and a psychological rebound, So reduce it progressively. If you use 2 spoonfuls in your coffee, use only 1 for a week, keep doing it little by little, and try to cut down on sweets. Try substituting them with healthy sweets. There is a playlist of them here on the channel too to help you. And another important thing is to try to adjust your sleep. We know that a single night of poor sleep can completely alter the appetite-regulating hormones for the next day because an immediate increase in ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, ends up happening along with a decrease in leptin, which is the satiety hormone. And that ends up changing the activity of the prefrontal cortex, which is the area responsible for self-control and logical decisions. So, in fact, you have more difficulty making good food choices. We get tired, right? Without the energy to think about it. So when you manage to improve these 4 things, the tendency is also that you'll be able to have better control over your daily sugar consumption. So tell me, what didn't you know was related? Which one do you think is the mechanism that is harming you the most? Write for me down here. I'd love to know what you managed to pick up from this video that fits your routine. I love seeing the comments. Remember to leave a like on the video as that helps me a lot. And share it with those who will like it, with those who need it. Let's work together to expand this chain of kindness, which is what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.